So everything was a little bit negative, and I took it to heart.
My next guest is setting the standard here in pro wrestling. His actions do speak louder than his words. I'd like to welcome above average Joe Scott to the Tristen Law Show. Joe, what's going on? Welcome.
Thank you, Tristan. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the compliments.
What's been going on with you, man?
Not much. Just been working, getting back out there in the independent world. Pretty much have something coming up every weekend, which is good. Usually like once a weekend, and trying to keep it that way. If I could grab more, I'll grab more. Trying to do what I can.
I know that your dad got you into pro wrestling when you were about 7 years old. You felt that pro wrestling was cool. So from the eyes of a 7-year-old, what hooked you to pro wrestling?
We're both from like the 80s, so I'm a Hogan guy, Warrior guy, Macho Man, but definitely was like Hulk Hogan was the guy, and everybody who got into wrestling will say Hogan was the guy. Hogan definitely drew me in, and he was the guy, like larger than life, and he got the fans into him, and it was just you could not take your eyes off of him.
Hogan was larger than life as a kid. I do remember him being in those shows like Thunder in Paradise and stuff like that, and thinking that he was so cool. But obviously, now that I'm an adult and I'm a wrestler, Hogan is not one of my favorites. Macho Man is one of my favorites. If I could ever make as much money as Hulk Hogan, I'm down for that. But Macho Man was definitely my favorite. But on the track of Hulk Hogan, I know that Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior were some of your favorites growing up. But what was it about Mankind, or as we all know him, he's the WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley? What is it that stood out to you about him?
I wasn't too keen on, I wasn't too well up on WCW, and I didn't know his past of Cactus Jack, so he was kind of new and different to me, and it was just a new character, a darker edge, and I was a teenager, so I was more welcome into like a darker edge and something different. It was just like what Raven was in ECW. Well, now I know about Raven. Like at that time, I didn't know about Raven, but he was something different. It was like, oh, this is cool. Somebody to really give Undertaker a challenge who could be on his level, and they put him right at that spot, and it just stood out to me, like with the mask and the words that he was using. He had a backstory, like he had a really complex story, and I was like, and that music and everything about that character, it was like, all right, this is my guy now. I don't know where he came from, but I like him. He wasn't like not anybody else. He was a little chunky. He was just unorthodox, and once he got in that ring, it was just mayhem, and I don't know, everything drew me to him. And then I went back and research about Cactus Jack. I loved that he transformed into Dude Love because he had a backstory about it, and it was just so cool. And like once I attached myself to him, I kind of grew with him, so it was kind of cool to see that.
You decided that you wanted to be a pro wrestler at 11 years old. What happened at 11 years old that pushed you to want to get into the ring?
I mean, I was young and dumb, but I didn't know the steps back then to do it. And might have, if I could go back in time, I would have probably started earlier. Probably not at 11, maybe in my 20s or something like that, if I was still serious at that time, where my mindset was. But it was my life. Like I just watched it with my dad. My parents brought me to the shows. I played with the Wrestle Buddies. I was playing the video games. I was playing with the action figures. It pretty much consumed most of my life when I wasn't at school.
I grew up in the Bronx, New York City, just like you, Brooklyn, Queens. That was your stomping grounds. Yeah. How did you think the path was to become a pro wrestler?
Back then I did not know how to go about doing it, and I didn't know anything about wrestling schools. There was no Google, there was no Facebook, I didn't really know a wrestler. I knew a couple like local events, but I was always shy, so I never like went up to a guy and be like, oh hey, how do you do this? And there was actually a show across the street from where I used to live in the Rockaways. There was a St. Rose, and they had a couple of shows, and I never like I hear guys now, oh, I went up to somebody, but that wasn't the way I did it. It's just like it was just happenstance. It's like I went to a couple pro wrestling Hall of Fames with my dad and my mom, and upstate New York. And one of the times I met Johnny Rods, and he gave me his card. I kind of sat on it for a while, and it wasn't until like my senior year of college, and that fire lit under me again. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm home. I'm almost finished college. I pretty much set all my goals, and this is another goal I want to reach, and it's time.
You said that you were shy growing up. How did you go from this shy kid boy to this above average wrestler in the ring?
I really don't know. I think it was definitely helps from my friends and just stepping out of my box and stepping out of my comfort zone. It's like it's always been weird, and I can't really pinpoint when it happened. It just happened. It was definitely high school. I kind of broke out of my shell a lot. Definitely college, and it was definitely like college when I started seeking theater, and you're kind of forced to be in that spotlight and be somebody different. So that was kind of cool, especially like with theater, you become a different character. I didn't have to be Joe Lopez. I could be XYZ, you know?
You and I started pro wrestling school in the same year. You and I actually you and I actually have a lot in common when it comes to our pro wrestling, school and training. So I started in 07 and you started in 07 as well too. Yeah. And you started training with Johnny Rods. How did you prepare for the pro wrestling school experience?
I didn't. I mean, I had some experience. If you want to include backyard wrestling, I messed around with my friends on the sand and stuff like that, and but nothing serious. And that would, I hate to say it now, but it's a part of me. I spent quite a bit of years doing backyard wrestling. If I could go back and not do it, I probably would. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't not like exclude that experience because it helped me become a wrestler. I feel like I know everybody craps on it because backyard wrestling has a bad name, but if I didn't backyard wrestle, I wouldn't be in the ring, because a lot of people were like, Joe, you're too good for this, what you're doing in the sand right now. You need to be in the ring. And I didn't, like, again, with the confidence issues of like, I needed to hear that. It was like, I didn't really picture myself in a ring, and I was like, oh, if this person and that person is telling me I'm that good, and I think I'm okay, maybe I should give it a shot.
Another thing how we have in common, you were trained by Johnny Rods. I was trained by two men that got trained by Johnny Rods, Bubba and Devon.
Nice.
For me, it was an educational experience, and it was extremely tough. And I still have some of that toughness that Bubba, Devon, and Coach Dan put inside of me. But in your words, in your opinion, what was it like training with Johnny Rods?
Like you said, tough, very educational. I would sit there sometimes an hour or two. Once he starts talking, he's not going to stop, and you're just sitting there and being a sponge and trying to absorb as much as he's trying to say. I was also there around the time when he wasn't, he was in his 60s, so he wasn't in the ring a lot. So I got a lot of like hand-me-down stuff, but it was all what Billy Walker says it best is the gospel according to Johnny Rods. So they would teach the words and the moves that Johnny taught them, because they were in the ring with Johnny. So it would be hand-me-down stuff, but it would be the way Johnny Rods taught it originally. So I got in there a unique time. as well with the athletic commission started to step in at New York, and you're probably aware of that too because since being in the Bronx, you sort of transitioned when you joined in the 2007. They were a little bit more stricter with their laws. Now you can't run a show and be like, oh, I'm doing a show like you do in Jersey. You have to have a doctor. You have to have the ambulance now. You have to have a firefighter guy or whatever the case may be. So it got a little bit stricter, and I didn't mind. I joined in February, so it didn't push my first match till like May. So I was like, okay, cool. I got more time to prepare and be ready. But yeah, like it was an awesome time. And one of the cool things I still remember was Mike Gallagher. I don't know if you're familiar with that name or not. He just came from the Harley race camp, and I was just going there on Saturdays because during the week I was doing college and doing my internship. So only day I could do was like Saturdays. And he would go there. He was hyped up from his Harley race camp. We would do the squats, we do the drills at the step ups, the mountain climbers, and all that fun stuff. Maybe run the Brooklyn Bridge since it was right there. So definitely tough training. And if you wanted to be there, that's how the test was, you know?
If you can go back right now and give yourself some advice right before you went into your first day of pro wrestling school, what would it be?
I kind of prepped myself like to forget all that backyard stuff and kind of start with a fresh slate and stuff like that. But I would say trust yourself more. Just listen to what they say. I would probably write more things down. I started writing a lot more things down. I don't as much as anymore. Probably should start doing that again, but just absorb and maybe go more often, be more committed, because there was a couple times you had your doubts about wrestling, especially like more years went on. I was like, you kind of phase out of it a little bit, but you still have your feet in the water, so I would say don't have doubts.
In another interview, you said that Johnny Rodz, that he put a lot of stock into you. What's that mean?
Like, he trusted in me a lot. And then, like, I think when I dabbled in some other places, he was kind of hurt about it because he viewed me as his guy. And like, I've talked to him since like I left, and he's like, "Oh, Joe, you're a good guy. You're awesome. How's everything been, Pa?" So I'll see him some time to time. I just feel, still a part of me just feels like a Johnny Rodz guy is like I never left, and it's always cool to know that that you could go somewhere and be like, "Hey, I'm a Johnny Rodz guy," and that still has meaning. And if they go to Johnny Rodz, "Hey, Joe Scott, he knows me better as Toby," he'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I know him. He's a good guy." So once you got that stamp of approval, you're golden.
You got to try it with the WWE in their FCW company, which is now NXT. Tell me about how you got that experience, and tell me about the experience itself and the outcome.
It was a really cool experience. I would probably do that a little bit different. Like Rods was saying to me, like I went down there, I spent my, I forgot how I went about doing it or how I found that information out, but I found the information out. I spent $1,500 on the spot itself. I sent my information and they picked me, and I went down there with my Scottish character because that's who I was at the time. Because I was like, oh, I sent them the picture of the Scottish character. I'm sure they want to see the Scottish character. And they already had a Scottish character in Piper, so we can't be Piper. But anyway, my dumb went there with the Scottish character, and it was really cool. Big Cass. Big Cass was down there because he was also a Johnny Rodz guy at the time. That was the first time he was getting looked at down there too. Kind of in like the beginner group when I could have probably been in the more advanced group. If I could have changed anything from that experience, maybe I would have put myself in the more advanced group.
So what was the feedback that you received at the end of the opportunity?
They gave you a nice little letter and a DVD. So I still have the DVD at home and stuff like that. So one stupid thing I did was I said I could sing. And Big Cass was like, you shouldn't have put that. They're going to ask you to sing. Oh, they asked me to sing. What's the first song that comes up in my head? Phantom of the Opera. I don't know why. It's only the song I was put on the spot, and I sung it pretty bad because I tried to do the Christine part. Stupid idiot. And when I go back in my mind now, I was like, I should have just did Sweet Caroline. I could not be the best singer in the world. I'm mediocre at best, but I could just, if they see that crowd reaction, they'll be like, "Oh, cool, he's got something going on. Maybe we'll use this guy or something like that." One feedback was when I had the kilt, I also had the belt. I remember Tom Pritchard being like, "Too many props." So I was like, I was in my own head because I heard that. Oh, like, damn it! Because I had complications of trying to get my belt off, and then I had to take my kilt off because they're all straps and stuff like that. I was like, damn it! But the feedback that came back was like, "Oh, you're not that ready. Pretty much you're not ready yet. You could use your psychology wasn't there. You could get a better physique." So everything was a little bit negative, and I took it to heart.
So before we move forward, can you sing?
I can sing.
Okay, I won't put you on the spot.
I'm decent. I'm not the best singer, but I'm decent. I could carry a note, and I could blend in well with a crowd. I've been in a bunch of musicals, so I don't know if that says anything.
Outside of pro wrestling, you decided to try acting, and you ended up doing extra work and even appearing on HBO's Boardwalk Empire. How was the transition from the wrestling ring to Hollywood?
Not much of a transition. Less stress on my body. That's for sure. Because it's kind of a similar drive. You're seeking out the next job. You're independent. I did like a couple things. You got to sign up, and backstage was one of the things, and I forgot the thing I signed up for the background work, but you got to pay somebody and you get your pictures and stuff like that, and they'll try to seek you out, like agency stuff and stuff like that. So the Boardwalk Empire thing just was like, I've heard about it. I didn't really watch it until like years later, like during the pandemic. Is like when the pandemic started, me and my wife started watching Boardwalk Empire because we had nothing else better to do, and we're like, oh, let's watch Boardwalk Empire. And I was like, I had to pay attention to, like, I was like seasons 4 or something like that after they blew up the boardwalk, and I was like the first person on the screen picking up the garbage. I was like, that's me. So that was pretty cool. The coolest experience from that was sit the same day when they did that scene. We were just chilling out in catering, and Steve Buscemi just sat across from one of the actors. I don't know if he knew him or not, and was just like just chilling. He's just a normal guy. I was like, oh, that's cool.
What goals have you set for yourself in pro wrestling?
They've definitely changed over time because I kind of like one of my mentors and one of my good friends, George Santi, caught me out of the rough of saying I don't want to do this wrestling thing anymore. He said one thing that's really stuck to me. You don't have to really strive for WWE. You don't have to be the best for WWE. You just have to be the best on the independents. And I was like, all this time, those words of like all this time, like throughout my career, I was striving. My blinders were on. I want WWE. I need WWE. That's the goal. It doesn't have to be the goal. There's AEW now. There's other options. There's Dan Moff. He's so big on the New Jersey scene, and he wasn't in WWE. He got it in ROH and stuff like that, but he's still a name. You can still be a good wrestler and not touch WWE, you know? I don't know how much time I have left, but since I'm out of the age of WWE that's looking for right now, one of my top goals is definitely doing AEW Dark or something, MLW, ROH, something mainstream, just to be like, I spent all this time wrestling and I want something, even if it's one match, just to be like, all this from 2007 to 2022, this is what it came up to, this dark match or this just something in a major company. That's kind of my mindset. It might be narrow-sighted, but I feel like it's something I need before I hang up the boots. If I can take this moment, also, I feel like you probably see it too. I want to give everybody a compliment. Like, I don't know what happened between like 2020 and 2021-ish, or when I kind of like, I just want to say like the locker room's like so much better than what it was like from when we started. Like, it's not as cutthroat. Yes, we're still competitive and we still want the best out of ourselves, but we're not afraid to put a Tristen Law over. Like, hey, he's my friend. He's a good guy. He's doing a great podcast. You should listen to him. You should pay attention to him. He should be on Ace. He should be here. He should be there, or X, Y, Z. You see the Team Adam guy. They promote each other, and that's what I'm seeing a trend of more. And I'm loving that trend. And I want to say everybody in the locker room who's ever paying attention, definitely keep up that trend and keep that positivity going.
I agree, 100%, 100%, and I know 120,000%. The boys watch. All the people in the locker room watch the Tristen Law Show. So that's your mindset, right? I'm looking a little bit more into your mindset, but let's narrow it down a little bit more. What is the above average mindset?
No matter who I wrestle, somebody new, somebody who's been around, I'm that guy who can get a match out of anybody and everybody I wrestle. Because I try to tell a story, and I have it with feeling. And that's what everybody loses right now. Everybody doesn't have that feeling anymore. You don't get attached to emotion. I have emotion. Nobody else has that.
You talked about doing the tryout in 2010. If you got an opportunity with WWE or AEW right now, are you ready?
Oh, yeah. If I'm not ready, I'll get ready. And that's what above average means to me. I have to live up to that name. I throw that name out there. I might say it a lot, but I have to live up to it. And that's the end of the day. If you're not, you can't get ready. You always have to be ready. And I train when I'm not at the gym. I'm training mentally. I'm training physically. And I drive around a lot. I'm thinking about pro wrestling. I sleep pro wrestling. So any opportunity that comes at me, I'm ready for it.
Who is above average Joe Scott?
He's not your average Joe. He's better than your average person. He gives 110%. He has passion. He has dedication. He has hard work. He has years of experience right now in pro wrestling and in real life. And you could ask all my ex-coworkers, my ex-bosses, they won't have a bad word to say about me. They say he shows up on time. Hell, I'll even show up early. I'm on time. I may not be the last one to leave all the time, but I'm usually there till the end. You see me, I help out from the get-go. I help out from the break down the ring. I give it my all. If I'm there, I am there 110%.
What's next for above average Joe Scott?
Well, we got Prime Time coming back this Sunday at Bushkill, PA in Easton. And we got Spartan Championship Wrestling starting their season again, which I'm looking forward to. I got a couple big things I feel like it's going to happen soon over there. So they're going to be running monthly again from January. So I don't know if they're going to do another off season this year. Again, I'm looking forward to see what Gino does with me in ECPW. I feel like I got a lot out of that, the feud between me and Connor. We had really good matches. We had the Falls Count Anywhere. That was kind of impromptu. That was one of the things. Was like, hey, Joe, you're going to be in this Falls Count Anywhere match. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's just – I wasn't prepared for it, and we made it work, and we had one hell of a match, and I really like that I Quit match we had too, and I'm hoping that Gino sees both of those things, and he sees I'm a strong character, and it's somebody who he can either put a title on or somebody could put a storyline in. He really trusts me. I feel like he trusts me enough to know I'm going to show up and I'm going to get a good match out of, like I said before, I'm going to get out a good match out of anybody I face. I feel like that's how I feel at the moment.
It's that trust for Gino, because we're not Gino guys, right? We
Yeah.
we were not trained by Gino. So
we've been there for a couple of years, but we don't have that brand, I feel.
Right. And when Gino trusts you, it means a lot. Like, I know that Gino trusts me. Gino trusts you, begins to trust you when he lets you drive the ring truck.
Yeah.
Because, if Gino could trust you to drive the ring truck from the school to point B and back and do everything right, and there'd be no problems on the show starting time, you're on your way. You're on your way. Joe, tell everybody how they could find you outside of the Tristen Law Show.
Yes, you can find me on all social media platforms. Instagram, Above Average Joe Scott. Twitter, Above Average JS, because they don't allow you to do the full. They have a limit there. Also, on Facebook, I have a wrestling like page. So that's also, you can find me at Above Average Joe Scott on there. Those are the three main ones I kind of blast everything on. I try to keep my personal page kind of personal. I'll share wrestling stuff every now and then, just because I know there's a broader audience over there and some people still ask me, but I try to keep that, not throw everybody, hey, I'm wrestling, hey, I'm wrestling, hey, I'm wrestling. We know. We get it. So those are the three major things if you want to find me. I think once I have the time, I want to sit down and do a link tree. I would advise that for any wrestler, because I'm hearing more about it, and I think it's a good thing. It's a one-stop shop. So for social media, and I do have a Teespring, which is Above Average Joe Scott as well. So I try to keep everything under the same brand.
Man, this guy right here is definitely setting the standard here in pro wrestling. That was Above Average Joe Scott. Thanks so much for hanging out, and I'll see you next time on the Tristen Law Show.